Dear Mr. Spencer, while some would consider it absurd to engage in an argument with someone who has attacked a grieving mother who happens to have won a presidential award for the endeavors she has undertaken in response to her son's death, I do not. Rather, I have deduced from your letter to Justin Phillips that you are quite confident about your arguments because you have leveled them against someone who is so universally loved that in my 29-year acquaintanceship with her, I cannot think of a single person who has spoken ill of her. Your being the first, I am curious as to the strength of your arguments. In my mind, they should pass muster on at least 3 standards. Number 1. Have you yourself successfully transmitted a set of values to your children that is identical to those you yourself possess? Of course, I'm assuming here that you have children. It's quite unimaginable that you would attack a mother about parenting matters if you yourself are not even a parent. So, I am curious as to whether you yourself have met the standard to which you are holding Justin. If you can say that your children have identical values to yours, meaning you yourself have been able to entirely control, influence, or supplant the formation of their values in a definitive fashion, and by age 21, I would add, then I will grant that you have passed criterion number 1. Please advise. Number 2. The second standard would be whether you and your current behaviors and values are identical to those you possessed at the age when Aaron died. If not, we can assume that you have either gone downhill, in which case comparison becomes impossible because Aaron lost the opportunity to rectify this area of his life, or we can assume that you have found improvements, tweaking, or even entirely different directions into which you fortuitously had the opportunity to take your spiritual development as you grew older. Aaron did not have that opportunity. Moreover, it is fallacious to assume that Justin failed as a mother because the most important thing a parent can teach their child is to learn from their mistakes and modify as they go along. This, of course, presupposes going along. In point of fact, Aaron Sims was actively involved in the learning from his mistakes process and had been working hard at his recovery, but in the self-same moment that he lost his life, he also lost the opportunity to continue on that course. Those of us who know them well would unequivocally state that Justin and Dave Sims met this paramount parenting standard. However, if you yourself consider this not to be part of parenting, not to be part of human development, as evidenced by the fact that you have shown no change in your own values or behavior since your young adult years, then again, I will grant that you have passed this criterion. Please advise. Number 3. I am wondering, sir, if you would be comfortable sitting down and presenting your arguments to Jesus Christ himself, or alternately to the loving deity of your choice. Surely we can agree that non-loving deities should be ruled out. Perhaps Buddha or Allah or the great Native American deity Wankantanka. These spiritual leaders demonstrated compassion. They believed in people's ability to repent and grow and change, and they invited them to do so through connection, love, and grace. Unless you yourself happen to be the sole exception, we are all a work in progress. Jesus specifically sought out people who were having difficulty. He did not eschew them, and he did not blame their parents for their struggles. The prodigal son comes to mind, as does the woman caught in adultery. The Buddha's immense generosity toward the poor also comes to mind. Shall I go on? So, to recapitulate criterion number 3, do you, in your heart of hearts, truly feel that Christ or the loving deity of your choice would approve of your letter to Justin Phillips? Would they say, "Well done, Mr. Spencer. I am proud of you for expressing these sentiments to Mrs. Phillips"? Please advise. Mr. Spencer, should you have counter-arguments to present, please do so. While my mind may be feeble, my spirit most certainly is not, and I will shy away from nothing that falls in the realm of defending love. And that is what this is about. Love. Justin Phillips has been maternal love incarnate during every moment since she learned of her son's death, and she has done more than any mother I have ever known or known of to advance the cause of saving others from the fate she suffered, and more importantly, that her son suffered. Aaron Sims suffered the greatest loss imaginable. He lost his entire life at the hands of a substance so incredibly seductive and addictive that it hijacks human physiology in ways that not even world-class scientists can fully understand, let alone a bright 21-year-old still finding his way in the world. Mr. Spencer, again, I would like to draw your heart back to the fact that Aaron Sims lost decades of his life. He lost 40, 50, 60, maybe even 80 or 90 years that other people like yourself get to live out with ample opportunity for trial and error. Heroin cunningly invites people from all walks of life to trial, and far too often delivers the epitome of punishments for the error. How you, Mr. Spencer, can possibly interpret this through any lens other than sadness and tragedy and compassion is a huge reflection on you yourself and reveals absolutely nothing about Justin Phillips. Her value and the value of what she has done on behalf of families touched by opiate addiction are held squarely in the focus of the Almighty, whose focus is perfect and immutable. Is yours? If not, perhaps you will stop and take a moment to consider whether your heart has missed the mark in this case. My heart resoundingly tells me that yours has, but I leave this to you to consider. In closing, I would like to allot for one more possibility. Being of quite fallible, if not in fact feeble mind, I presume that I have omitted some very important arguments. I therefore invite others who know Justin, or who lost children to addiction, or who have feelings in any direction at all about the arguments formulated in your letter to Justin or in this letter, to present their views in this forum, Facebook, for open debate. I await your response, Mr. Spencer, in which I hope you will further expound on your intriguing argument that a person pouring love, time, and effort into some of the most down and out of society and into their bereaved loved ones should cease and desist those activities. Respectfully submitted, Jennifer Baker Gall, Budapest, Hungary.